Hello everyone and welcome back for another episode of Hearthstone Ladder Climb. My name is Ikkaris, this is Ikkaris Gaming, and today is episode 27 of our series where we're taking a look at my Hearthstone gameplay as I try to climb all the way to Legend. We're sticking with our Malygos Druid deck that we've been running for the past couple games. So this is one of my more, since I've been playing it, it's a fairly new deck for me. I never really had Malygos, but I just recently crafted it, so it's been a blast playing through and seeing how you can work it at high levels of play. I've been using it in casual quite a bit to try to get a feel for however the pieces come together. And here we are in ranked. So right off the bat, we mulligan for a pretty good hand. Obviously, we can see there that we're matched up against Even Shaman, which is a deck that we know a thing or two about since we run it, fairly regularly. But as far as our opening hand, we're in pretty good shape here. We've got Wild Growth, we've got Nourish. So we're going to try to ramp up as much. And there's the second Wild Growth, which is huge. We're just going to get off to a huge ramp now to start out this game, which is fantastic. Not a whole lot of draw, but we do have Ferocious Howl, which can draw us a card and give us some armor, which we'll need in the early game, especially because, as we see with the Merc Spark Eel coming down from our opponent on turn 2, Even Shaman wants to go fairly wide in the early game, and it's almost a kind of a quasi aggro deck if they're not able to get the giants out or some of the bigger minions. So, we go with the Wild Growth, Hero Power, just try to take one and, just get one extra HP off of the little totem there. Next turn, we're definitely thinking Nourish, probably to ramp up. We don't necessarily need it for the card draw. It's more important to ramp as early as possible with Druid in general, but, especially in like a combo deck like Malygos, like we're running now. And so Fire Plume Phoenix comes down. We're not in a huge danger yet. We still have plenty of armor to be gained with the Ferocious Howl. We have removal with Swipe and Naturalize. We're not thinking, we don't want to use Naturalize on one of the smaller minions just yet because you want to save it for say like the giants. However, our opponent goes pretty big here with the double buff onto the Fire Plume Phoenix, adding 2 elementals to hand as well. So, we go ahead and we use the Ferocious Howl, armor up, and unfortunately we're kind of forced to burn a Naturalize onto the Phoenix there. But it's okay. That's a pretty big minion, and usually you're not going to get that against Even Shaman, where you just are looking at a massive minion that soon. But we've got removal, and we're also going to be at 10 mana next turn. Now, ideally, if we could get like Ultimate Infestation, which we do run 2 of in this Malygos deck, Ultimate Infestation next turn would be ideal. Which, as you can see, we draw and immediately top deck. So the only thing we're thinking about now is what do we want to put it on? Use it on the Flame Tongue totem. Try to get the most amount of value out, and we also get the Arcane Tyrant, which is huge for tempo gain. And now we've got a handful of stuff, and you can see we're again checking hand size just to make sure we don't overdraw. But we're in good shape. We've got Alexstrasza in hand, which is also a new card for me. I never had it before. So that's a huge card to have, especially in the late game where you can, set yourself up, maybe a turn or 2 in advance, take the other opponent's health all the way down to 15, or to even save yourself. Now, Druid has so much armor gain that we don't necessarily need to do it. We're not thinking about that yet. Go ahead and drop the Giggling Inventor, and this is a little bit of a misplay. Ideally we would have played. Ferocious Howl before Giggling Inventor to get that 1 extra armor point. So, we're gonna be paying attention to that going forward and making sure that ordering matters, especially when it comes to armor gain and things that have effects based on how many cards are in your hand, things like that. So, a little bit of a misplay there, but it's okay. It's only 1 piece of armor, so we'll get it fixed next time. So, next turn, we're not quite sure what we're going to do here yet. We've got We've got Spreading Plague in hand, which is nice, especially against even Shaman, because the board, they can get really wide with the board, especially if they don't have any of the Sea Giants in hand. And it can be really tough to punch through all those taunts. But, you know, right now it doesn't really do us any good because we've got more minions on the board. Now we have the same amount of minions. Dreampetal Florist doesn't help us either. I mean, it can get Alexstrasza down to 2 mana, but we really, ideally, you want it to hit Malygos, not you know, Alexstrasza or even Floop, which is in hand. So we go ahead and top deck the Mind Control deck and completely high roll here. We got incredibly lucky grabbing the big elemental there. Go ahead and take out the Direwolf Alpha. Save, you know, as much HP as we can on the Arcane Tyrant. Just leave the little 1/1 totem up there. It's fine. We know, you know, the buffs have already pretty much been used. That even Shaman runs that we already saw on the Fire Plume Phoenix. So we're not really in any danger here of just leaving that 1/1 on the board. So save that for face. And, you know, now, you know, we're kind of thinking of what we want to do next turn. It's obviously going to depend on what we draw and depend on what our opponent puts down. And down comes Kalanos, which is unfortunate. Goes ahead and 3 damage to everybody. Bye-bye board, but we still have the elemental left. You know, he can't really do anything to it with the 1 mana totem. So now we're thinking about how to get rid of Kalanos. We don't really need to worry about it now because we can go ahead and pop Malfurion the Pestilent, go with the taunt scarabs, and it's I almost 100% go for the scarabs when going Malfurion. Occasionally the poison spiders can be a good choice, but it's almost always a good call to go with the spiders. Go with the +3 attack. You know, we burn our minions and we eat 7 damage face there. But, you know, again, we're protected. There's nothing that 1/1 can do to us. And we have so much armor gain still. We have both Spreading Plagues in hand. So we're not, you know, we're not too worried about our life total right now. Mossy Horror. Now, it's a good thing that this came down now versus when we have a wide board and we have a big wide Spreading Plague on deck. That's always the kind of the nightmare scenario. But most people don't run more than 1 Mossy Horror, so you know we don't really have any other options here right now. So we just go ahead and pop the Spreading Plague, get rid of the totem. We're just, again, you know, we're always keeping an eye on our hand size and how many cards we have in our deck. Because at this point we're looking for Malygos. You know, we have both Starfires in hand. We've got Swipe, we've got Floop, and the Dreampetal Florist. So as soon as we get Malygos, we can start thinking about setting up with the Dreampetal Florist, with Alexstrasza. We might not even necessarily need the Twig of the World Tree. You know, at this point, it's a pretty slow card, and you can see Hagatha coming in. So now our opponent's going to be getting a lot of value, dropping all the minions down, obviously filling the hand with spells. You can see we've got 9 cards in hand there. So now we go ahead and pop Alexstrasza, drop him down, her down. I don't know. I don't actually know if it's a male or female dragon, but go and put our opponent's life down to a total of 19 with that armor. The Hex doesn't really matter. You know, Alexstrasza's done the work. And another good reason why Floop is in this deck is, you know, even if we do take a ton of damage here over the next couple turns, we've got our own, we've got a backup Alexstrasza in hand to go ahead and heal ourselves back up. We don't need it yet, but you know it's going to depend on what our opponent can do. So this next turn, you know, we can't Ultimate Infestation here because you know we would risk burning Malygos. You see, we get Twig of the World Tree. So we're going Spreading Plague, and we can also Twig as well. Use up all that mana. I believe that's what we do here. Again, this oh no, we go for the attack. I see. So the logic there being to take away that extra damage from every minion being more important than getting Twig of the World Tree, because our plan at the moment is to just get Malygos in hand, drop Dreampetal Florist, and, you know, play the odds that with a 50-50, we'll be able to hit Malygos instead of Floop, which again, it's kind of unfortunate that, you know, if you have Dreampetal Florist and Floop in hand, it's kind of annoying because, you know, you always you have to play that kind of 50%, that 50% chance is, you know, unless you have other minions in hand. In that case, you know, that's not great either. But ideally, you would get Malygos in hand, Dreampetal Florist, drop the Florist, you know, reduce the mana cost for Malygos, then you draw Floop, and then you're off to the races. So we get the, you know, I don't quite remember the name. I play, so the version of Even Shaman that we play is different than what our opponent is playing. I don't, you know, the original recipe, it seems, which is what our opponent's closer to, runs that 4/2 Divine Shield and Charge. You know, unfortunately, I don't remember the name, but anyway, we also don't run the Vicious Scalehide either. Now our opponent goes and buffs up the Menacing Nimbus, which isn't great because that again adds more value to hand. You know, with the effect being to add another elemental. So that's not great, and we're kind of thinking, you know, of ways to get a little bit more board presence, and that's why we go ahead and drop the Arcane Tyrant, even though we have to pay, you know, full mana cost for it. It's better off to get it on there to give us more options, you know, a little more board presence. And again, you know, we wish we could use either UI or Nourish, but just not really able to now. So we use Twig of the World Tree, which is again a very slow, unfortunately, a very slow card. You know, if you're gonna play it, you want to play it a little bit early, but of course you can always get derailed by weapon removal, or sometimes, you know, you might need to attack something, but you only have 1 mana left on it, and so it can be a little tricky to play, you know, to play Twig. So, you know, we're gonna try to manage it here and manage our own life, because you can see we're out of armor at this point. You know, we're gonna be thinking now to use the hero power to armor up, you know, almost every turn as much as we can, unless we can pop UI and, you know, pick up you know, 5 armor just off of that, plus the minion, plus the card draw. But you know, we're outnumbered. We don't have our second plague, which is a little bit concerning as well. You know, we've already used both along with the Malfurion scarabs, so, you know, the clock is ticking for us at this point. Now, luckily, we do get swipe, so we have both swipes, and you know, sometimes you'll see, you know, the dream is to be able to get 2 swipes off with Malygos, but that's, you know, it's pretty rare that you're going to be able to do that. So I'll use 1 swipe, but then I keep the second swipe, because the combo that I like to play is, you know, and then now we get Malygos in hand, but you get Malygos, break the Twig, and then you go, you know, you can go Floop, swipe, Starfire, you know, as you've seen in, I'm sorry, Moonfire, in as you've seen in previous videos. So we want to keep that second swipe, and we do now have armor gain with branching paths. Unfortunately, we can't play, you know, we can't play the Dreampetal Florist and branching paths on the same turn, so we have a little bit of a choice. It's going to depend on, you know, what our opponent puts down on the board here. Looks like it's going to be a spell, the Fire Elemental, direct damage to the face. And so this is where it can get a little spooky, going against Even Shaman. You got Hagatha down, and so every minion that comes down, and that deck is full of minions. There's very few spells that that deck runs, but also all these spells now are created by the Hagatha hero power. Another Earth and Might coming down, and, you know, now we've got a big 8/6. You know, we're dead now next turn. Our opponent has lethal on board, so, you know, we're gonna have to take a look. But we do have the Jasper Spellstone. You know, we're gonna go ahead and use branching paths to armor up here, gain more armor, and now we've got 6 damage on that Spellstone. Bang. And so, you know, we're thinking about, you know, do we want to maybe we use swipe, or, you know, we just decide to go face and just decide, you know, to give our opponent the free 6 damage here. And so we have 2, you know, we have 1 more turn at least before we can you know, we can bust out Twig of the World Tree to try to end the game. So next turn, we're probably going to be thinking drop Dreampetal Florist. And the other good news too is that, you know, when an opponent sees Dreampetal Florist on the board, it almost acts, even though it doesn't have taunt, it's almost a de facto taunt, because you just, like, it's basically got a big target on it that says, you know, kill me, kill me. When an opponent sees Dreampetal Florist, you cannot leave that on the board, because you don't know. Our opponent doesn't know, are we running Malygos, or running Mecha'thun, or running Togwaggle? You know, there's a lot of options that Druid has. And so when you have a card that reduces the amount of, that reduces the mana cost of minions in hand, you pretty much have no choice but to kill it. You see here, now comes the Unstable Evolution, so we're going to get quite a few of these as our opponent's kind of fishing for the best possible minion. Jiraxxus, nope, doesn't swaps it. Ends up with a Sea Giant, and we can see, you know, now we're kind of into the post turn and animation that you have to wait for. We do get Naturalize, which is big time. So we use the Naturalize on the Giant, avoid the damage, overdraw our opponent. You can see he has to burn Corpse Taker, is going to have to burn another card, and so now, you know, we're hoping that Dreampetal Florist hits our Malygos. It doesn't, which is, you know, kind of unfortunate. It ends up hitting Floop, which is now the Dreampetal Florist. But with our Twig of the World Tree at 1 charge left, we can still pull off the combo. And we're just kind of looking here to see. And so you know, that's the reason why, you know, we run Twig and Dreampetal Florist, so that you have multiple options in case one doesn't quite pan out. Like if our Twig had been overdrawn or removed by like an ooze or something earlier in the game, you've got the Dreampetal Florist, and then vice versa. So we're just kind of waiting to see what our opponent does here. I think this is actually just a little bit of some kind of lag or something happening. You know, the animation gets frozen or something like that. We're just kind of waiting to see what our opponent does here. And I think our opponent I think this is actually kind of a disconnect, with it just kind of hanging like a ghostly specter over the board, but it doesn't really matter. There's very few things that our opponent could do that would do 19 damage directly to us, directly to face to win this game. And I think that's exactly right. You know, I think our opponent disconnects here, but again, I'm going to go ahead and take the win, and it couldn't come at a better time. You know, we have no cards left in the deck. We go Malygos down, and we can still see that card floating there, which again just shows that our opponent has indeed disconnected. But we go ahead and use the swipe. Bang, don't even need to use the Moonfires, and we win. So that's our Malygos Druid. You can see we're ranked up. We're up from rank 9, the Silverhand Knight, up into Frostwolf. I'm not even going to try to say it anymore. We're up to rank 8. How's that? I can say 8. So, you know, we're moving our way back up. Recently, we've been running a little bit more Death Rattle Hunter. I know it's kind of probably a little bit boring. It's getting a little bit boring for me as well, but it seems to be one of the more effective decks that I can run. Maybe I'm going to come back to Malygos to keep trying that out, but you know, I think in the next couple episodes we're going to be getting some Death Rattle Hunter and maybe even some Priests. So I'm going to tease that out there, but we'll see. All right, thanks. Catch you on the next one.